and sold for impressive prices at auction. Stay with us until the end, because the last coin could be the rare treasure you've been searching for. 1949 Canada 1 cent. With the large date variety has become one of the most fascinating coins for collectors who specialize in Canadian cents. While most circulated examples sell for modest prices, exceptional examples with outstanding eye appeal, rare varieties, or unusual minting characteristics have attracted remarkable attention whenever they appear in major auctions. That is why experienced collectors never stop checking old Canadian pennies. The year 1949 marked an important period in Canadian history. The country was moving forward after the challenges of the Second World War. Businesses were growing, families were rebuilding their lives, and everyday commerce relied heavily on small denomination coins. The 1 cent coin was one of the hardest working pieces of currency in Canada. It changed hands countless times every single day, making it one of the most circulated coins of its era. Because of this heavy use, finding examples with attractive surfaces decades later has become increasingly difficult. The Royal Canadian Mint had already earned an excellent reputation for producing coins with sharp details and consistent quality. However, even with strict quality control, every production year creates small differences that collectors eventually discover. Those tiny differences often become the reason one coin is worth only a few dollars, while another becomes the highlight of a major collection. The 1949 large date variety stands out because of the appearance of the numbers in the date. Specialists carefully compare the size, spacing, and shape of each digit. At first glance, the difference may seem insignificant, but experienced collectors know these details can identify an important variety. This is exactly why magnifying glasses are among the most important tools in numismatics. Tiny design characteristics often separate common coins from highly collectible pieces. Looking at the obverse of the coin, collectors immediately notice the portrait of King George VI. The portrait represents the monarch who appeared on Canadian coins before the reign of Queen Elizabeth II began. Around the portrait is the traditional Latin inscription identifying the king. Even after decades of circulation, many collectors appreciate the classic appearance of this design because it represents the closing years of an important chapter in Canadian coinage. Turning the coin over reveals the familiar maple leaf twig design that has become one of Canada's most recognizable coin images. The simple yet elegant arrangement reflects the nation's identity and natural heritage. The denomination appears clearly beneath the maple leaves, while the date anchors the lower portion of the design. Even though millions of Canadians once handled these coins every day, few stopped to appreciate the artistic detail that went into such a small piece of bronze. The composition of the coin also contributes to its lasting appeal. Produced primarily from bronze, these cents were designed to withstand years of everyday use. That durability explains why many examples still survive today, although most show heavy wear from circulation. Finding one with strong detail, smooth surfaces, and pleasing color becomes much more challenging with each passing decade. Mintage numbers for the 1949 Canadian cent were substantial because the country required enormous quantities of small change. Large production totals usually suggest a coin will remain common forever. Yet collectors understand that mintage alone never tells the complete story. Survival rates matter just as much. Millions may have been struck, but many were lost, damaged, melted, or worn nearly smooth after decades of use. As a result, attractive original examples become far scarcer than the original production numbers might suggest. Condition is one of the biggest factors influencing value. A circulated fine example retains enough detail for important features to remain visible, even though high points show noticeable wear. Hair details on King George VI become softer, the maple leaves lose some sharpness, and lettering may appear slightly worn. Nevertheless, a pleasing fine coin with original surfaces is still desirable because it honestly reflects its long journey through Canadian history. Collectors also pay close attention to color. Bronze coins naturally change over time. Some develop rich chocolate brown tones, while others display attractive reddish-brown highlights. Original color is generally preferred because it indicates the coin has not been harshly cleaned or artificially altered.
A naturally aged coin often commands stronger interest than one with bright but unnatural surfaces. Cleaning is one of the biggest mistakes owners make. Many people believe polishing an old coin increases its value. The opposite is usually true. Harsh cleaning leaves tiny scratches that permanently damage the original surface. Professional grading services can immediately recognize cleaned coins, and collectors often pay significantly less for them. Leaving an old coin untouched is usually the safest decision. Another important factor involves strike quality. Some 1949 cents exhibit stronger strikes than others. A sharply struck coin displays crisp lettering, well-defined maple leaves, and clearer hair details on the king's portrait. Strong strikes become especially desirable because they showcase the design exactly as the engraver intended. Error coins add another exciting dimension to collecting. Although major minting mistakes are uncommon, examples with off-center strikes, die cracks, die chips, clipped planchets, or dramatic misalignments always attract attention. Collectors enjoy errors because they represent unusual moments during the minting process when something unexpected occurred. Every genuine error tells its own story. Die cracks are among the more frequently encountered mint errors. As dies age, stress can produce fine raised lines on the finished coins. While small cracks are relatively common, dramatic examples crossing major design elements become much more desirable. Advanced collectors often seek these unusual pieces because no two die cracks develop in exactly the same way. Die chips create another interesting variety. Small sections of a worn die may break away, leaving raised lumps on the struck coin. Depending on their location and size, these chips can significantly increase collector interest, particularly when they occur in prominent areas of the design. Off-center strikes represent one of the most dramatic mint errors. Instead of the design appearing perfectly centered, part of the image is missing because the blank planchet shifted during striking. Moderate off-center examples that still display the full date are especially popular since collectors can identify the year while enjoying the unusual appearance. Double strikes are even more spectacular. They occur when a coin receives more than one impression from the dies. Depending on the amount of movement between strikes, parts of the design may appear duplicated or shifted. Genuine examples are scarce and highly sought after by error specialists. Collectors also search for repunched digits or unusual date characteristics that distinguish one die from another. Even subtle differences can become important if researchers confirm them as recognized varieties. Canadian numismatics has a long tradition of studying die varieties in remarkable detail, making these discoveries especially exciting. Professional grading services have transformed the coin market by providing standardized evaluations of authenticity and condition. Coins certified by respected grading companies often command stronger prices because buyers have greater confidence in what they are purchasing. Authentication is particularly important for valuable varieties that can otherwise be difficult to verify. Auction results continue to demonstrate the strength of collector demand for scarce Canadian cents. While ordinary circulated 1949 large date cents generally sell for modest amounts, exceptional specimens with rare varieties, outstanding preservation, or significant mint errors have achieved dramatically higher prices. In today's competitive auction market, a remarkable example combining a recognized rarity, impressive eye appeal, and certified authenticity can approach about $108,500. Though such prices apply only to extraordinary specimens rather than typical circulated coins. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through old collections, estate boxes, forgotten albums, and inherited jars of pennies. Every discovery begins with someone taking a closer look instead of assuming an old coin has no special value. For experienced numismatists, the 1949 Canada large date 1 cent remains a fascinating reminder that history, rarity, condition, and collector demand can combine to transform an ordinary-looking penny into one of the most exciting finds in Canadian coin collecting. The next coin is the 1968 Canada 1 cent begins during one of the most interesting periods in modern Canadian coinage. By the late 1960s, Canada was experiencing rapid economic growth, expanding cities, and a changing society. Millions of pennies were needed every year to support everyday transactions. Every trip to the grocery store, every newspaper purchase, and every handful of change relied on the humble 1 cent coin. Most people never imagined that one of these ordinary pennies could someday become a highly collectible treasure. Yet decades later, collectors continue searching for the elusive 1968 large-date variety because even a circulated example deserves a careful inspection before anyone decides it is only worth 1 cent. When this coin was struck, the Royal Canadian Mint had already established itself as one of the world's most respected mints. Known for exceptional craftsmanship and innovative minting technology, the mint maintained strict production standards. Even so, small differences naturally appeared during production. These subtle variations are exactly what excite collectors today. A tiny difference in the date size, a distinctive die characteristic, or a genuine mint error can separate one coin from millions of others. The first thing most collectors notice is the elegant portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the front of the coin. During 1968, Canadian circulation coins featured the youthful portrait created by Arnold Machin. The Queen faces to the right, surrounded by the traditional Latin inscription. Although the design appears simple, the portrait represents an important era in Canadian history and remains one of the most recognizable images in the country's numismatic heritage. Turning the coin over reveals the classic maple leaf twig design that has appeared on Canadian 1-cent coins for generations. The delicate maple leaves symbolize Canada's natural beauty and national identity. Beneath the leaves sits the denomination. While the date appears at the bottom, collectors admire the balance of the design because it combines simplicity with elegance. Even after decades of circulation, the artistic quality remains easy to appreciate. The large date variety receives its name from the appearance of the numbers in the date. Experienced collectors compare the shape, spacing, and size of the numerals under magnification. To someone unfamiliar with coin collecting, the difference may seem almost impossible to notice. However, specialists understand that these details can identify an important variety. Careful examination is one of the most rewarding parts of the hobby because remarkable discoveries often hide in the smallest features. The Royal Canadian Mint produced millions of 1-cent coins during 1968 to satisfy the country's growing economy. At first glance, a high mintage suggests that every surviving coin should be common. In reality, survival in collectible condition is far less common. Most examples entered circulation immediately and remained in use for years. They were carried in pockets, dropped into cash registers, stored in jars, and passed from one generation to another. Heavy circulation gradually wore away the finest details, leaving relatively few attractive examples for modern collectors. A circulated fine-condition coin still displays the complete design, although the highest points show moderate wear. Hair details on the Queen become softer, the maple leaves lose some definition, and lettering may appear less sharp than on an uncirculated example. Nevertheless, a pleasing fine specimen with original surfaces remains desirable because it reflects genuine circulation history without suffering excessive damage. Collectors carefully inspect every part of the coin before determining its value. Color plays a major role. Original bronze often develops attractive brown or reddish-brown tones over time. Coins with natural surfaces are generally preferred because they have not been cleaned or artificially brightened. Original patina tells a story that polished surfaces simply cannot replace. Surface preservation is equally important. Small contact marks are expected on circulated coins, but heavy scratches, corrosion, environmental damage, or harsh cleaning can significantly reduce collector interest. Experienced buyers often spend more for a coin with honest wear than for one that has been improperly cleaned. Strike quality also deserves attention. Some coins were struck with greater pressure than others, producing sharper details throughout the design. Well-defined lettering, crisp maple leaves, and strong portrait details indicate a superior strike. These characteristics become increasingly valuable because collectors appreciate coins that display the engraver's work as clearly as possible. Another fascinating aspect of the 1968 Canada 1 cent involves mint errors. While most coins left the mint exactly as intended, a small number exhibit unusual production mistakes that have become favorites among specialists. Genuine mint errors transform ordinary circulation coins into unique collectibles because each error represents an unexpected moment during the manufacturing process. One of the most popular errors is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank planche shifts before the dies strike the coin. Part of the design is missing, while the remaining portion appears dramatically shifted. Examples retaining the full date are especially desirable because collectors can easily identify the year while enjoying the unusual appearance. Die cracks provide another interesting collecting opportunity. As production dies age, stress sometimes creates fine fractures. These fractures appear as raised lines on finished coins. Small die cracks are relatively common, but large, dramatic cracks crossing major design elements generate considerable collector interest. Die chips also attract attention. Tiny fragments can break away from the die, leaving raised metal bumps on struck coins. Depending on their location, these chips may become recognized varieties that advanced collectors actively pursue. Since each damaged die evolves differently, every example tells a slightly different story. Double strikes are among the most dramatic minting errors. These occur when a coin receives two separate impressions from the dies instead of one. The result may include overlapping lettering, duplicated portrait details, or shifted design elements. Authentic examples are scarce and always generate excitement when offered for sale. Misaligned die strikes create another collectible variety. In these cases, one side of the coin appears properly centered, while the opposite side shows an unusual shift. Although less dramatic than some errors, properly authenticated examples remain desirable because they illustrate another type of minting irregularity. Collectors also search for doubled lettering, unusual date characteristics, and die polishing lines. While many of these features require magnification to identify, they demonstrate how closely specialists examine Canadian coinage. Every new discovery adds another layer of excitement to the hobby. Professional grading services play a vital role in today's market. Authentication protects buyers from altered coins while providing a standardized opinion of condition. Certified examples often attract stronger bidding because collectors have confidence in the accuracy of the assigned grade. This is particularly important for valuable varieties and significant mint errors. Demand for Canadian cents has continued to grow as more collectors recognize the historical importance of early bronze coinage. The end of Canadian penny production has increased public interest, encouraging many people to search old collections and inherited coin jars. Every forgotten box of coins presents another opportunity for an exciting discovery. Auction records clearly demonstrate that rarity, condition, eye appeal, and authenticity work together to determine value. Most circulated 1968 large date cents trade for modest prices, but extraordinary examples with exceptional preservation, recognized varieties, or major mint errors have achieved remarkable results. When several determined collectors compete for a truly outstanding specimen, bidding can rise far beyond ordinary expectations. In today's competitive auction market, an exceptional certified example featuring an important variety or dramatic mint error could realistically approach about $126,800 in a specialized sale. That figure applies only to extraordinary pieces with unique qualities and should not be interpreted as the value of a typical circulated 1968 penny. Most examples remain affordable, which is exactly why careful examination is so important. The possibility of discovering an overlooked rarity continues to inspire collectors across Canada and around the world. Every old coin deserves a second look, because history has shown that remarkable treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. A penny resting unnoticed in an inherited collection, forgotten piggy bank, or decades-old coin album could become the centerpiece of a remarkable numismatic story. That enduring sense of possibility is what makes the 1968 Canada Large Date 1 cent one of the most fascinating coins for collectors who never stop searching for the next great discovery. Next up, the 1962 Canadian 1 cent is a fascinating coin because it represents one of the final years before major changes in Canada's lowest denomination. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary penny that millions of Canadians handled every day. Yet experienced collectors know that appearances can be deceiving. Small differences in date style, strike quality, surface preservation, and unusual minting characteristics can transform what seems like a common coin into a highly desirable collectible. That is exactly why collectors continue to examine 1962 Canadian cents decades after they disappeared from everyday circulation. If you have inherited an old coin collection or discovered a handful of Canadian pennies tucked away in a jar, this is one of the dates worth taking a closer look at. While the vast majority of 1962 1-cent coins are common, exceptional examples and unusual varieties continue to attract attention whenever they appear in the marketplace. Patience and careful inspection are often rewarded in the world of coin collecting. The Royal Canadian Mint struck millions of 1-cent coins during 1962 to satisfy the country's demand for small change. Because so many were produced, circulated examples are still easy to find today. However, quantity alone never tells the whole story. Collectors are not simply searching for a date, they are searching for quality. Coins that survive decades with minimal wear are far scarcer than the overall mintage would suggest. One feature collectors often discuss is the large date style seen on 1962 cents. Although many people never notice the difference, specialists carefully compare the numerals with reference guides to confirm the correct variety. Even subtle differences in the spacing, thickness, and shape of the numbers can become important when identifying collectible varieties. Learning these details is one of the most enjoyable parts of numismatics because every discovery feels like solving a small historical mystery. The obverse of the coin features the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II created by Mary Gillick. Around the portrait appears the Latin inscription identifying the Queen. This elegant design remained a familiar sight on Canadian coinage throughout much of the 1950s and early 1960s. Collectors admire the portrait not only for its artistic beauty, but also because it represents an important period in Canadian history during the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. Turn the coin over, and you will find the classic maple leaf twig design created by G.E. Kruger Gray. Two maple leaves frame the denomination 1 cent, while the word Canada appears above and the date below. The maple leaf has long served as one of Canada's most recognizable national symbols, making this reverse design both simple and timeless. Even collectors outside Canada appreciate its elegant appearance. A standard 1962 Canadian cent was struck primarily from bronze, giving the coin its familiar reddish-brown appearance when preserved. Over decades of circulation, exposure to air, moisture, fingerprints, and environmental conditions often darkened the surfaces. Today, collectors encounter examples ranging from bright original red to reddish-brown and completely brown. Original mint color generally commands a premium because it indicates excellent preservation. Condition is one of the biggest factors affecting value. A fine condition coin has experienced moderate circulation. The highest parts of the design show noticeable wear, but important details remain visible. Queen Elizabeth II's portrait still displays recognizable facial features, while the maple leaves retain much of their outline despite some flattening. Collectors appreciate fine examples because they provide an affordable representation of the series while maintaining attractive detail. Although fine condition coins are common, specialists always look beyond simple wear. They examine strike quality, luster remaining in protected areas, overall eye appeal, and the absence of distracting damage. Two coins graded similarly may sell for different prices if one has stronger detail, more attractive color, or cleaner surfaces. During the minting process, thousands of blanks moved rapidly through high-speed presses every hour. Most coins emerged exactly as intended, but occasional production mistakes occurred. These mint errors are among the most exciting discoveries a collector can make because they are often much scarcer than normal coins. Collectors examine 1962 cents for off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, die chips, lamination flaws, retained cuds, broad strikes, and doubled design elements. Genuine examples of these errors are much less common than ordinary circulated coins. Authentication by a respected grading service is important because damage occurring after the coin left the mint can sometimes resemble genuine mint errors. Die cracks are especially interesting. As dies aged from repeated use, tiny fractures sometimes developed. Those cracks transferred raised lines onto the coins they struck. While many die cracks are minor, larger and more dramatic examples often receive increased attention from specialists who study die varieties.
Another feature collectors enjoy searching for is die doubling. True doubled dies occur during die creation rather than during the striking process. Genuine doubled design elements can significantly increase collector interest depending on their visibility and rarity. Magnification is usually necessary for proper identification, and comparison with published variety references is recommended. Strike quality also varies from coin to coin. Even among freshly minted examples, some received stronger impressions than others. A sharply struck coin displays crisp lettering, well-defined maple leaves, and excellent portrait detail. Strong strikes are especially desirable because they showcase the artistry of the original design. Color plays a major role in determining desirability. Collectors commonly classify bronze Canadian cents as red, red-brown, or brown. Fully red examples with original mint brilliance are considerably scarcer than brown coins because preserving fresh copper surfaces for decades is extremely difficult. Even tiny environmental changes gradually alter the metal's appearance. Storage conditions matter enormously. Coins preserved in dry holders, albums, or protective capsules generally survive much better than coins stored loosely in jars, drawers, or damp basements. Improper cleaning can permanently reduce collector value. Experienced numismatists almost always recommend leaving old coins exactly as found because original surfaces are preferred over polished ones. Auction records demonstrate how dramatically quality influences price. Ordinary circulated 1962 Canadian cents often sell for only modest amounts, while superb certified mint state examples with exceptional color can command substantially stronger premiums. If a coin also possesses a rare, authenticated mint error, collector competition may drive prices even higher. This is why careful examination is essential before assuming a coin has little value. Every detail matters: the strike, the color, the preservation, the variety, and any unusual mint characteristics. Although most 1962 Canadian 1-cent coins are common, exceptional examples continue to remind collectors that hidden treasures sometimes appear in the most ordinary-looking places. Before spending or dismissing any old Canadian cent, take a few moments to inspect it under good lighting with a magnifying glass. Compare the date, lettering, and design details with trusted reference materials. What appears to be just another old penny could become an exciting addition to a collection, especially if it displays an uncommon variety or an authentic mint error that distinguishes it from the millions of ordinary examples.